Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Boston. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth here with Rich Hagan. And we are underway, number 3 on our top 25 pro ranking, Stanislav Cifka on the left-hand side of your screen, playing against Ivan Floch. Cifka is on, as you can see from his start here, Affinity. And only 3 permanents on turn 1 for Cifka. I say that partially in jest, but let's see what Floch has lined up here. He's going to crack this fetch immediately. Sometimes you don't see them crack it that quickly, but I see he's got 1 key card in his hand already with a lightning bolt.
Yeah, it all looks so innocent, Affinity, to start off. I mean, who cares about a 1-1 that has lifelink and an 0-2 flyer that does nothing?
But looks like Floch is going to waste no time at all in bolting the Vault Scourge. Interesting play there. There's a lot of great targets in Stanislav Cifka's deck for Lightning Bolt. And Cifka, has he just said go? It looks like it.
Really?
Oh, he draws a land for the turn. It's another Darksteel Citadel. So you got to figure he's got some fireworks here. It's a Vault Scourge. It's on the stack, and Floch has a mana leak in his hand.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean, mana leak. I mean, I guess there are bigger things you really care about, like a cranial plating, for example.
Sure. It's just pretty tough to play a cranial plating on this turn.
Yeah.
So Floch must have been on the play here. That's the only thing I can figure. Because Cifka drew a land and now has played a different land than the one that he drew.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting matchup because you'd think it would be really easy for Floch. He's got infinite spot removal. He's got ways to just grind out his opponent, but this Affinity deck is so resilient.
So I think the key, and I'm not making a pun for the sake of it, is in the finite. Because you just said infinity spot removal, and my experience is that infinity spot removal is what you need against Affinity, but actually you have infinity -1. And in Affinity, it turns out that the most important card on the battlefield right now may well turn out to be that land for Stanislav Cifka.
It's true.
Because it gets very, very hard to deal with those. You deal with the first artifact creature that comes flying in. You sweep the board. You get rid of all the artifacts. You bounce one back to hand. And then there are these lands that are sitting there still when all the dust has settled, when all the sorcery effects in the world don't touch anything.
Yeah.
That are still coming in. And as soon as a cranial plating's there, it's like
every creature's a threat.
Yeah.
Still, Floch, he has at his disposal so many different ways to just destroy Cifka here. Like if Cifka activates his Inkmoth Nexus and Ivan Floch has Electrolyze, the game just kind of ends.
Yeah.
Cifka's tapped his Glimmer Void and then untapped it and put his hand on his head. He's like, crap.
Yeah.
Can I really walk into an Electrolyze here? It's just too brutal.
All right. Soul Artifact, my Darksteel Citadel.
Now this is going to have to get mana leaked because it's indestructible unless Floch has Path to Exile in his hand, in which case he can send it,
here's the mana leak.
And there's a mana leak. All right, so mana leak's going to take care of that, and that's going to allow Cifka to get in there for just a single point of damage, and he passes a turn back. So Floch has got to feel pretty good. Remember, one of the constraints to this blue-white-red list is the mana. It is fully a blue, white, and red deck. There's no little splashes here and there, and you'll see that the first 3 lands that Floch has on the battlefield are all dual lands. You know, you cannot fuss around when you're trying to play Cryptic Command alongside like Lightning Helix. You can't, play too many colorless mana sources.
I died at the PTQ to having Celestial Colonnade Plains, needing an untapped red land ideally.
Yeah.
I did. I got a Sulphur Falls. It came into play tapped because I owned neither an island nor a mountain in play.
Go.
And that's the end of my PTQ. Thanks.
And there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so Floch has a Tectonic Edge here. That's a key card in the deck as well. You're not happy that you have to run colorless, but you really do need answers to certain things. Mox Opal goes on the stack and it resolves, followed up by a Thoughtcast here from Cifka. So Cifka, he's got 2 Thoughtcast in the main deck here, and that's going to give him access to some form of card advantage to start battling these 1-for-1s that Floch is going to be able to put on him.
I was talking with Daniel Cicchetti, former member of the World Magic Cup team for the United States, and he's playing Affinity this weekend, and he was saying, oh man, let me tell you, it's colored mana, it's so tough in the Affinity deck. And I'm like, what, a third color of mana? No, colored mana. You know, like having a color.
Yeah,
right?
poor Daniel Cicchetti. What is he going to do? All right, so here's Darksteel Citadel. One interesting card I see from Floch. It's a card that has definitely made an appearance in this deck. Is Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah, now he's running 2. Often you see, let's just have the single.
You have 1 or 2.
This.
Yeah, it's always 1 or 2. In the list I was running, I ran 1.
Yeah, and
it just gets so awkward.
I was going to say, for those of you who don't know why such an incredible card from Standard isn't like an automatic 4 of, the number of times that you are going to get to Sphinx's Revelation for 4 or 5 unmolested are not very many.
Very rarely does that happen. That's why I chose to go with 1. It's just really tough to get 2 of them stuck in your hand. You can't really win that game if you're under a lot of pressure, like the kind of deck that Cifka's piloting here, Affinity, is capable of putting on. Tectonic Edge, really important here, though, because it can actually kill the Inkmoth Nexus. A lot of times you'll see the Affinity player not play their 4th land. They'll just hold it in their hand as long as possible to play around a Tectonic Edge. I wonder if Cifka's regretting it now. He played that Darksteel Citadel, and he's opened up his manland to get destroyed by the Tectonic Edge now. He's also locked himself in some way, because if it does get destroyed, if he plays another manland, and Floch has another Tectonic Edge down the line, that one's also going to be vulnerable.
You know what, though? I would be very surprised if Cifka had done that by accident.
Oh, I doubt it was by accident.
My thinking would be that he is not interested in trying to get that through as the way to win, but would much rather see Floch go. If he wants to put himself back to 3 mana, Cifka thinks that's a fair exchange.
Fair enough.
That's my guess.
Sure.
I do not have an earbud with Cifka in my ear.
Yeah, I don't either. Cifka, though, really doesn't have a lot going on here. And now there's double Tectonic Edge for Floch as well. Though it's not really in his best interest to fire off both of them necessarily, as Cifka has a Mox Opal anyway. So he's going to have access to the colors that he wants. And here it is, Arcbound Ravager for Cifka. This is a big play, and Floch is going to be forced to react to this.
Arcbound Ravager was so exciting to open.
I wasn't playing.
When you opened a booster and you saw an Arcbound Ravager peering out at you, my God, you were excited. Yeah, that was a really, really exciting open.
This is an exciting play here for Cifka, too, because it's given him a real punch. I mean, he was essentially attacking for 1 damage a turn for the duration of this game, and now he's got a Ravager that can threaten lethal at almost any time. It looks like he is going to activate his Inkmoth Nexus. It can be sacrificed to the Ravager anyway.
Yeah, less the 1-2 punch, but more the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 punch.
Exactly. And with Floch sitting at 13, a big chunk of damage can do a lot. Another reason now why Cifka has played these Darksteel Citadels is that they're now food for the Ravager, and he can get himself back below the threshold so he can play around Tectonic Edges in the future. And now Floch has an interesting decision. He took the damage and the 1 poison, but he's got that Sphinx's Revelation, and firing it off for 2 here is not a bad idea, especially because I think he's got 2 lands and something.
Yep, that's what we're going to see. So Floch will go back up to 14 and draw 2 cards at end of turn, and that often is as good as Sphinx's Revelation gets.
Yes.
We saw a Lightning Helix go into hand alongside a land.
Yeah, so this is a big one here for Floch, as he's forced to make Cifka do something with that Arcbound Ravager. Like, Floch needs to know where those counters are going to land in the end so that he can try to make a play with, like, you know, if he can find something like a Path to Exile or something along those lines, that's the type of play that he can really abuse Cifka on.
I think Path to Exile is the single most comforting card in the blue-white rig control list.
It is.
Like, obviously there are times you don't want to draw it, but fundamentally when you're playing with 3 cards in hand, there is almost no game situation where drawing a path off the top doesn't make you feel better about your chances in the game. It's just such a great card.
All right, Floch plays an Arid Mesa and just calmly ships a turn back to Cifka. And as it stands, Cifka can keep applying small amount of pressure here. And then if the door gets opened at any point, he can move in and dump all the counters from that Ravager on something.
Yeah, don't hold your breath for Floch to open the door.
No, especially because Floch has no backup plan here. He can go for the Lightning Helix on something, but if he does and Cifka just says, I don't have any other line of play, I'm going to move all my counters onto like my Ornithopter or something, Floch just doesn't have another removal spell to back up that play.
So Floch choosing his mana on the Tectonic Edge. And then edges.
All right, he's going to turn it into a creature.
Yeah.
Sack it and sack it. So Ravager's getting bigger. It's already 3/3.
And as you mentioned earlier, now he's down, Cifka is down to just 3 land. So the second Tectonic Edge is no longer live.
And Cifka's got a Signal Pest he's going to use with the floating mana from the Darksteel Citadel.
Is Affinity the most synergistic deck in Modern? I'm just looking at all the cards on Cifka's side of the table, and there's one good card in that 9.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah, you're right.
There's one card
you're right.
and
Look at
8
that.
pieces of nonsense. I mean, come on, come on, Rashad, you know what I'm saying. It's an abysmal pile of cards.
Ooh, that was a good one.
And yet, it's a fantastic deck.
I think you're totally right, Rich. It's got to be the most. So what happened is Ivan decided that he was going to remand the Signal Pest. Now it's an easily castable spell for Cifka. He just gets to play it again, and Floch just has to accept that. But Cifka, he has to read that as some sign of weakness from Floch, as Cifka's now going to attack with the majority of his team here, everything without Summoning Sickness, and let's see if what he goes for. Floch's at 14. It seems unlikely that he can get him all the way down to 0 here.
Well,
but
4, 5, 6.
So there's 6, 7.
3 more have just gone away.
Yeah.
So that's 6 counters on the Arcbound Ravager now.
Now Floch found a Snapcaster Mage though with the remand. The problem is he's got all lands in hand and not enough on the battlefield here to be able to flash it back. He can crack his fetch land. If he's got a mountain, or not a mountain, if he's got a plains, he can get a plains. And only take 1 damage off of it and fire it off on something to force Cifka to do something, but it doesn't really get him where he needs to go.
And also that Lightning Helix is not going to actually do anything in terms of getting him 3 life back, because Cifka can just respond and get rid of the creature.
Correct.
To the Arcbound Ravager. So.
And Cifka sacks the Springleaf Drum here to bring the damage count up to 8.
Plus 1 from the Vault Scourge. Yeah, 7 from there and 1 from the Vault Scourge, 8.
He can get him, he can do 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, because the Glimmer Void is not an artifact.
Correct. But he's going for it. 8, 9 damage.
See, now it looks much better. Now it's like 1 proper card and only 5.
So Floch takes it.
Oh boy.
And is he forced to fire off the Lightning Helix now, or can he wait? He's really going to need to find a path to exile quickly, though.
Yep.
And even then, he needs a backup plan on top of that. I think with 3 creatures, Cifka's going to be in too good of a spot here for Floch. Because the way it normally goes is like, you use a removal spell to try to force Cifka to move the counters over, and then when he does, you use a removal spell on the thing that he moved the counters over and hope that that was the last thing he could put counters onto.
Yeah.
The problem here is that Cifka's got 2 separate targets that he can do. We see a Cryptic Command on the bottom of Ivan's deck. If he can draw one of those, that would be nice too, to buy him some time and keep him moving through his list here. But
there is 1 Supreme Verdict
tough.
in the deck.
In the main?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Well, that's what he wants now. The one of.
Yeah, you saw an Electrolyze going through there. It's a funny old format where Electrolyze can so often feel like one of the best cards in the format. When you play this blue-white-red deck, the number of times you just cast an Electrolyze and think, did I just...
3 for 1?
Yeah, I mean...
You can get 3 for 1s off it easy against
your
Affinity.
2 guys in the bin, and I drew a card, and it's just such a good card. And yet, fundamentally, again, not on its own, super powerful. Kind of thing you play in draft and put in your sealed deck and hope to get it some use out of.
Right.
Back in the day.
All right, so Floch draws his card for the turn, and it's a land. He doesn't play it. I think he's just going to scoop if Cifka attacks.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing doing here. I don't see how Floch gets out of anything here.
Yeah, I mean, he can make a couple of plays here, but none of them actually get the job done if Cifka just goes for it. He can play Snapcaster Mage. Now, what is going on here, though? I thought I saw him sort of gesture towards the thing, but it looks like maybe he hasn't passed a turn yet.
What?
He's got just enough mana to be able to cast Lightning Helix, play Snapcaster Mage, and flash it back.
Yes.
That's a 6 life point swing, plus the fact that he can block the Ravager with his Snapcaster Mage. It might be enough to keep him alive for an
not
extra
now,
turn.
because he's put that Hallowed Fountain into play tapped.
Here's Snapcaster. So he can Snapcaster Bolt, and then he will have the, he can respond. So this will actually keep him alive because he can take out both flyers. And he can chump block on the ground with his Snapcaster Mage. This is getting interesting. Though I guess the Signal Pest still gets in there.
I mean, the bottom line is that Floch's drawn a ton of land and is in deep trouble.
Deep trouble. Okay, say go. Oh, never mind. Cifka's thinking. He saw us put his hand up there like, wait a second. Yeah, this is just brutal for Floch because Cifka has so many creatures now, 5 total creatures. He's always going to find something to put the counters on. It could buy Yvonne a turn, though, which could be critical. But like you said, Rich, he's drawn a few too many lands here, and he was able to deal with a few of the early threats and even play a Snapcaster Mage in the mid to late part of the game here, but it looks like Cifka just has too much thanks to that Ravager. Without the Ravager, it's pretty ugly. But
in we come. Block like this. I want to take 2 from my from your Vault Scourges. Is that all? So Cifka's like, all right, what can you do next turn, maybe?
Yeah, and Cifka just says sure because Floch really can't do anything if he acts here. He did not play the Helix. Interesting.
I really like the patience from both players.
Yeah.
Like, even one of the things that first drew me to Guillaume Waffa-Tapper as a player was the fact that I watched him in the top 8 of a Grand Prix where he drew 6 or 7 lands in a row. And I happened to be behind him and didn't know anything about his opponent. And the game progressed as if Guillaume was drawing spells because his opponent had no idea that there was just, yeah, I'm dead. I'm even more dead. I'm completely dead. Now I'm even incredibly, utterly dead. You could not tell at all. And obviously he was playing a control deck, so, you know, there was certainly things that could be in hand.
Sure. Let's take a look at our live look in here. George Pacar versus Jeremy Dizani. This is our King of the Hill match.
Yeah, which is why we've got the leader in the Player of the Year race in for the 3rd round of the day running, because he won and then he won. It's not just because he's leading the Player of the Year race and may be Player of the Year in a week's time. Though that's quite a good reason to have him in the feature match area too. So what we've got going on here, we've got a Liliana of the Veil. And we have a Dark Confidant. And George is on the fish.
I like it. You don't see those too often, but they're quite powerful. See, there's a Spreading Seas on one of Jeremy Dizani's lands on that Godless Shrine there.
And once again, we find Dasani 1-0 down. As we did last round.
Mutavault. Silvergill Adept and Mutavault are going to crash in. I couldn't quite see where they were attacking. That's going to be very life total dependent. Usually you just attack Liliana.
I like that Planeswalkers have a place in Modern. It's, you know, they're obviously completely stellar and limited, and inevitably they're a big part of Standard. But I think it would be sad if, for the most part, they were just around for the 2 years that they were in, and then, okay, see ya. I really like that Liliana can come back and can be getting some camera time in a big format like Modern.
Takes a pretty special one.
Yeah.
But Liliana is that.
So Liliana bites the dust. Bottom right, our main match is waiting for game number 2 between Even Floch and Stanislav Cifka. Cifka with Affinity leads blue-white-red control for Floch by 1-0 on the back of an extremely large and ultimately undealable with Arcbound Ravager.
George is at 18, Jeremy is at 10.
Okay. That's not terrible for Jeremy. I mean, you can often be a long way towards dead by this kind of time in a game against Fish, as we see the uncounterable Abrupt Decay. Doesn't just kill creatures, boys and girls.
Oh, wow. Dasani's on 10, and he just played his second Dark Confidant.
No, that's where he drew off the...
Oh, that's what he drew off the Dark Confidant? Okay, so the
that was
question
the
is,
reveal.
Does he want to play it?
No. No.
How about Garrick Wildspeaker?
Yes. I'm going to run out there. He's going to do that. Oh,
okay.
wait,
He could play both.
Yeah.
Too risky.
He is pretty conservative. By and large. He will do... I don't think of him as a gambler at all. He is compelling to watch. So, let's be honest, he's a Jund player. I mean, that's almost the very essence of not a gambler.
Did you mean that as an insult, or?
No, not at all.
I was joking.
Did it come across as one?
No, I was joking.
Oh, that's a pity. I kind of meant to suddenly do that. Yeah. No, but seriously, it is the absolute definition of how regular can I make Magic?
Yes.
How many tiny margins can I find?
Yes, it really is.
And I mean, right now, Jeremy Dasani knows that in the decision to play or not play that second Dark Confidant, he has just won countless games of Magic over lots of other Jund players who have done the opposite of what he's decided to do.
Yeah, just ran it out there.
Well, whatever. Yeah. Because there's so many choices to make against the other decks, and you really get to not play Magic against them. It's exactly why I will never play Jund.
Why? You don't want to make those choices?
No, no, I don't want to make the choices where I know that a lot of time I'm putting myself in a position where my good opponent is going to make those choices better than me. That's just giving up an edge.
Sure, of course it is, yeah.
I would never recommend Jund to a newer player and say, who wanted to do well, I would recommend Burn for this tournament, or maybe Affinity or something like that.
We had Burn on the...
Or Scapeshift.
You'd recommend Scapeshift?
Yeah, and not necessarily for a new player, but if someone just wanted to know a deck and do quite well, I'd say, yeah, you could play something like that. I wouldn't recommend Jund, though.
Oh, I would.
Really?
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, look, none of these decks are easy to play, right?
Sure.
So, you know, it's pretty straightforward when you have your opening hand. You're like, oh, I get to Thoughtseize them. Oh, play this Tarmogoyf. Oh, Bob, I don't have to make decisions with that. He just flips over a bunch of cards. I don't know.
See, if I was being unkind, I'd say, oh, there's my opening hand. I get to not Thoughtseize them on turn 1.
There you go.
Because that's what sometimes jokers like Dasani do.
Sure, I think every deck has those, like, you know, those weird decision points that aren't obvious. But if you, like, it's not a disaster if you just go Thoughtseize.
No,
right?
of course
like,
not.
it's not maximizing it, but...
We have the very lovely Scavenging Ooze in play right now. And in a startling turn of events, we tune in to find Dizani down, up against the wall, just quietly stabilizing and making life better for himself. You're missing nothing, as you can see, bottom right still.
Yeah, we'll be back on our main feature match once they're done mulliganing. It looks like there's maybe a few mulligans happening here.
I hope so, because otherwise they've taken forever.
Yeah.
Things don't look great for George Parar right now.
In Dizani's hand. In play. Ah, there is. There's a choke in play.
Oh dear.
Yeah, let's have some fun now, kids.
One out of the sideboard.
That's a nasty magic card.
Yeah.
I'm glad they don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah. You see, I started playing in the days where people really made you pay for playing the deck you were playing. The world of gloom, the world of choke, the world of boil.
So brutal.
Yeah. It's like, actually,
It's really nasty.
Islands, you say?
You didn't want to use those for the rest of the game, did you?
Yeah. The world of chill.
Chill.
Oh my god.
Chill and choke.
The closest I've ever come to being punched at a Magic tournament was really, it was really early when I was playing, and I was playing a red burn deck against a blue mage who cast chill.
All right, we're ready to go back down to the main feature here. It looks like Ivan had to mull down to 5 here, though, which could be really bad for him. If I mean, his deck can recover. It's not like he's definitely got wiggle room there. It's not one of the, like if you mulligan a 5 with Affinity, it can get pretty ugly.
Yeah, you want to find paths, and you want to find bolts, and you want to find helixes, and then ideally, around about the 3 mana point, you want to find Snapcaster Mages.
Yes.
And that's kind of the plan on that side of the table. Yeah, suffice to say, I attempted to pyroblast my opponent and saying because I was doing the alternate cost of sacrificing 2 mountains, I didn't need to pay the extra for chill. Because that's how I thought it worked.
Ah.
He went mental.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so here it is. Turn 2, Arcbound Ravager. It was a big issue last time.
Yeah. And by big, you mean like 12,
7, or yeah. And threatening to be bigger.
Yeah.
So Floch looks like he's got another Lightning Helix in his hand, and he has red mana here. He's also got Lightning Bolt. So he could start picking things apart here, but unfortunately he can't quite play both of them. Again, you know, ideally you're able to play both at the same time. The other thing that Floch has to keep in mind is after he clears away the board, that Blinkmoth Nexus can be a problem, especially if there's an Inkmoth Nexus to join it.
Also worth watching out, just in case the 4 mana Supreme Verdict becomes relevant, that Floch currently has neither Plains nor Mountain. Oh, you see, of course, Sacred Foundry now.
He
doesn't have, someone did a joke about that once.
Thoughtcast from Cifka attempts to draw a couple of cards and succeeds. Floch can do nothing but watch.
Yeah, Sulphur Falls would come into play untapped now because of the Sacred Foundry.
And there's an Ornithopter that's also resolving.
And now signature time.
Oh, Wrath of God in hand?
Yeah.
Wow. Wrath of God's going to be interesting.
And
he does not like to see the cranial plating, but that being said, having a Wrath of God in hand is a huge deal here.
In comes the Ravager.
1 single point of damage drops Floch down to 19. And Floch just draws his card for the turn. So he played the Sacred Foundry untapped, but his plan was to Wrath the whole time.
Yeah.
Boom. And Cifka's completely tapped out, so he can't transfer all the counters over to his Blinkmoth Nexus.
That was the key.
Huge
That's
for Floch.
the key.
But still, Cifka has already drawn 2 extra cards thanks to his Thoughtcast, and he has a cranial plating on the battlefield with an active Blinkmoth Nexus around. So he is not out of gas yet. He's got, what, 4 cards in his hand too? So things can get out of hand pretty quickly with this Affinity deck. Ivan Floch did a great job to stabilize, but the game's not over yet.
We see Floch with the Sphinx's Revelation in hand. He's drawn it again this game. And again, you see it basically not doing an awful lot. He might get to draw a couple of cards off it if there's a window, but more realistically, it's kind of sitting there as a more or less dead card right now.
Yep. He doesn't have the luxury of time. Once he gets to resolve a big Sphinx's Revelation, the game's essentially over anyway, because he's survived long enough to do that. And normally the scenario is that you die with it in your hand, or you win anyway and happen to have it to just sort of push yourself over the top. All right, Vault Scourge is going to kick things back off for Cifka here. And there it is.
Soul Artifact.
And Soul Artifact
Smash.
for 5. Whacks him in the face. That Springleaf Drum is tired of being beaten on.
Path to Exile.
It's going to do beat down itself.
Path to Exile.
Ivan ripped Path?
Yep, think so.
I think that's just justice.
Is Cifka's running 2, right?
Yeah.
So it is possible we will see Scissor Sisters at some point.
Sure. Although not this game, because I think that thing's dying pretty quickly.
Yeah. Helix away the Vault Scourge. Go back up to 15.
Good start. And path that thing. I think Cifka has 1 island. Wow. Justice?
Where are we at the moment on the Soul Artifact? In terms
very
of,
low.
Because I mean that's the
very
first
low.
hit. Now it's hit once. We've seen it on camera twice. It's hit once. It's drawn a removal spell both times, obviously.
Now I will say, to be fair to Soul Artifact, that even though I think that you could probably do better, it has demanded removal every time we've seen it on camera, which is actually 3 times total going back to an earlier match.
Sure.
The fact is, though, the opponent had the removal every time so far, and I don't think that's that uncommon. That's going to happen pretty often.
Master of Ethereum has been given the plate.
All right. Master of Ethereum is going to eat a lightning bolt. Nummy.
Bye.
All right, this has gone exactly how Floch drew it up. He's going to get to crack that Arid Mesa, get a land, and the last card in his hand, very conveniently.
Sphinx's Revelation.
Correct. So he gets to just fire that off for a couple. He is going to take a little bit of a hit here, but it's actually not too bad.
So did Cifka just get halfway through casting a second cranial plating?
Yes, he did.
I wasn't just seeing double. There was this weird look where the
he was pretty excited about it, and he has now played it.
And so now in I come on the first one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts there if he's activated that Blink Moth. So this is potentially 6 damage here. One thing that you'll see from the blue-white-red list as the game goes on here is that if Ivan cannot find some instant speed removal, even though he has a ton of it, he can also start trading off his Celestial Colonnades for these Blink Moth Nexuses. Remember, the toughness doesn't get pumped from the plating, so it's almost always a straight-up trade. And it's not a great situation to be in if you're in Floch's place, but it is really nice to have the option to use a land to trade for a real spell when you're the one looking to make the game go as long as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, in this match, it feels to me like Tectonic Edge is one of the absolutely most powerful cards in Floch's armory, because it's the one thing that it can respond to anything, and it just says dead. Not 1 damage, not 3 damage, not what can you do about it, just, is that a non-basic land over there? It is.
Yes.
Bye.
Now, that normally is pretty true, but against Cifka, he's got a lot of ways to get rid of those lands. Right now, he can't. So one of these is going to eventually die to a Tectonic Edge, but I think the Tech Edge is going to serve as a deterrent right now. And Cifka is just going to go for it. He has no other play.
Yep.
There you go. Equip one, equip one, equip one, equip one. Attack.
Smash.
And now Floch has this interesting play where he can choose to tectonic edge one, or he can throw away a colonnade by blocking one of them. They're all getting +5, +0.
Dare he do neither of those things? Dare he
I think he's dead.
If he revelations?
Yeah, he can only rev for 3. That's 12 exactly.
And he's on exact. Okay,
Yeah,
so that's not a choice. Fine.
Yeah. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, but what he can do, he does have a few plays. Like he can tech edge and revelation for 1, or he can activate colonnade and block, or he can just tech edge and kill something. Yeah, and so he actually activated his colonnade and blocked, yeah. Which of course isn't what you want to see when you're trying to get off a big Sphinx's revelation, but he has to. He needs to make sure that he kills those Blinkmoth Nexus. With the tech edge in tow, he can finish off the other one anytime he wants as well. I think that equipment should fall off of there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Cifka heard me. Not really.
Yeah.
They're quite far away.
For those of you at home, don't worry.
Yeah.
He didn't actually.
No, we have to be set up quite far away. You know, because we get excited sometimes.
A lot.
Yeah. It's an exciting game.
That is certainly true. Okay, so they just a little bit of action replay on the previous turn there.
Yep. Stony silence. Wow. Great timing on that. That means that those 2 cranial platings are dead in the water. They're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And Cifka's on the manland beatdown plan. Tectonic Edge takes out the other Blinkmoth Nexus, meaning that Floch is going. He took Blinkmoth down.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Cifka played a second Inkmoth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Floch has 1 poison counter, make it 3, and this is where he gets to gain some life, but perhaps more importantly, there's an Ornithopter that does nothing. He gets to try to find a few answers to those manlands. He has a ton of them in his deck. Any instant speed right there. There's 1.
Lightning Helix.
Lightning Helix is a good start, and a Snapcaster Mage covers the other one. Thank you. Thank you, top of deck.
Hey, and also, thanks even Floch, because we might get a game 3 now.
Yeah, it looks like we might. This thing is certainly not over. He's at 3 poison, but he has answers now to both Nexuses, and that's good. And with the other cards being essentially dead cards thanks to the Stony Silence, it's just not really going to work. Cifka can't even attack either because of the looming threat of the Celestial Colonnade to just gobble up one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game should be basically over, though Floch does have to wait quite a while before he can start using up enough mana to sink into those Celestial Colonnades and start beating down, well, without leaving himself completely wide open. He draws Wear and Tear and shifts a turn back. Little did he know that he's got a target for the for the destroy target enchantment side of Wear and Tear. He can blow up in Soul Artifact.
Yeah. I generally like to start activating my Celestial Colonnades around about 19 mana.
19?
Yeah, because then you can go Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command, activate my Celestial Colonnade, hit you.
Spoken like a true control player, Rich.
Uh-huh.
And there's a Spell Snare, and Cifka looks like he's going to play this one out, but I think the writing's on the wall here for him. Even though he has Floch all the way down to just 4 life, it is going to be so difficult to power through for the rest. There's a Spell Skite. Now that's interesting. That forces Floch to use up potentially 2 spells. I think he's just going to use the Path on it. But still, you know, he's got Snapcaster Path to Exile for it, but still, it does force Floch to do that. So he doesn't necessarily have answers to both Inkmoth Nexus now. That's interesting.
I love the way that game designers can decide that a creature like Spellskite requires a 4th point of toughness, which makes it so vastly different to a 0/3.
Has Cifka changed his mind here? I'm not really sure. He's kind of shifting around with his cards down there. Remember, the Celestial Colonnade is still sitting there, and that doesn't care about Spellskite. So Cifka's still in the same kind of awkward position he was before, where Floch just gets to sit there with a grip of cards that are unknown to Cifka. And Cifka, I think he activated an Inkmoth and just said, never mind.
Yeah.
And you see the shuffle through the library for Floch. If Cifka noticed that, he'll know that Floch's got a Snapcaster Mage, and as it turns out, he's actually got 2. Snapcaster Mage is interesting here. One of them can't really attack much, but Cifka's probably would start taking damage from the Snapcaster instead of blocking with Spellskite just because he doesn't want it to get immediately killed, but let's find out. Here's Snapcaster Mage. Wow. So Cifka activated his Inkmoth Nexus, decided not to attack, and got it taken out.
Because he'd activated it.
Because he had activated it.
I wondered whether Floch was going to hold him to that, and lo and behold.
Wow. Sick draw for Floch, too. Now he's picked up.
Spellskite gone as well.
Yeah, Spellskite got used up the wear and tear on that, and now he's also drawn an Electrolyze, too, just in case Cifka gets Brave. Now here's an interesting draw. This is one of the few cards that can really get some work done. Etched Champion.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that Metalcraft is enabled at this point.
It is indeed. Deeply enabled. All right, so this is going to change the plan here for Floch, though. He all of a sudden finds himself in a position where he's going to need to start beating down or throwing burn spells at Cifka's face. Very quickly, he draws another Snapcaster Mage. Definitely a target he likes to see there. But if he can't start gaining some life somehow, even at just 2 damage a turn, that Etched Champion is going to wreck Floch. Thankfully for him, though, he's at 7. And that's going to give him an entire extra turnover if he is at 6, which is nice.
And
what just happened there?
I think trade. Snapcaster for Etched Champion. Appeared to be what happened.
But why would the champion die then? Didn't it have protection? I must have missed something. There must have just been something that I didn't see in between there.
I think it may be to do with Floch's graveyard that we can't see currently.
Okay, fair enough. I thought that it was I mean, those Palladiums are sitting up there. He's got enough.
Yeah, but
for
they're
Metal
Stony silencing and.
No, I know. He's not that he can use them, but that they count for Metalcraft
yeah,
still.
sure.
Yeah, I just must have missed something. All right, well, we'll have to try to figure that out after. But for now, Arcbound Ravager hits the battlefield. Flashback, Wrath of God.
So it's like just
Good.
wipe the board.
That makes sense. Yeah, we knew it was something from the yard. I forgot about the Wrath down there. And this is going to be a flashback Sphinx's Revelation now for Floch. And once again, he still looks like he's in the driver's seat. He just found an engineered explosives as well, which can keep any future draws along the lines of Etched Champion off his back too.
Yep. I don't know what the audio feed is like from here, but in our ears, that big announcement is saying time on the round. Now, of course, it's not time on the round in the feature match area. They have a few minutes more for sure, but this is where actually winning with the blue-white-red deck becomes a real factor.
He's got to shut the door quickly here. The Ravager can't be activated either, so I think he's got the green light here to start activating those colonnades and shutting the door. It doesn't take much. 4 turns as it sits, he can just kill him.
Sure.
He's even got backup spells in hand, so I think it's time to begin the beatdowns.
I would suggest that just looking at the way Floch is moving his cards around, that there is an active difference based on the hearing of that announcement. Even though you have, I don't know, 5-7 minutes extra.
They got 7.
No,
I'm confirmed.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
awesome, okay. He has 7 minutes to try and win this game and another one.
That seems highly unlikely. Is he playing for a
Now,
draw
I was
here?
just going to ask you, at that point, is he just saying, I would like this game to take a long time because there's only one winner of Game 3 and it's you? if we within this time frame.
All right, well, he's going to activate Colonnade and get in there. He's now got enough mana to activate Colonnade again on blocks if he wants. He's also got a second Colonnade here. So yeah, he could finish off Cifka pretty quickly. And here's Inkmoth, Inkmoth. Remember, Floch's at 3 poison. And here comes Colonnade to eat one of the Inkmoths. And he might as well throw Snapcaster in front of Ravager. And down they go.
Poison counter on the Ravage on the
a -1/-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's Gideon as well. So I mean, look, Floch has this game in hand. The question, a better question, is where do we go from here?
Yeah. Does he? Okay. So there we are.
So we do actually have an end result here in game 2, but the players are going to have a little under 5 minutes here to finish the next match, and that's very unlikely.
Meanwhile, Jeremy Dizani is still playing by the looks of things in the other match. Yes, live looking again. Dizani fights back to get to 1-1. And look, it looks like we're playing on accelerated time. Again, like the speed of like, here comes my Scavenging Ooze. In comes my Tarmogoyf. All right, this is what I'm going to do. Wow. We'll get you live totals when we can from this one while we look in. And we will close out round 6 with as much of game 3 as they will let them play, and even Floch against Stanislav Cifka. Where presumably, Marshall, Stanislav Cifka is going, I can win in 3-4 turns with my 7. Wait, no, I can't. I'll mulligan to 6.
Yes.
I can win with my 6. Okay, I can't. I'll mulligan to 5.
Right.
Because he's almost on a free roll that Floch cannot, one would think, actually get a win in game 3.
Not realistically. He needs to get to the stage of the game where he can start activating those Colonnades with no fear, and that takes a while.
Yeah.
Right now, this board state, George is sitting on 8 life, Jeremy Dizani's on 13, and Dizani looks like he's on the beatdown path pretty firmly here. There's a Scavenging Ooze that's a 5-5, and there's a Goyf that's probably a 5-6 or somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So I would look for Jeremy Dizani to finish off this match pretty quickly here. They're tied at a game apiece.
Maelstrom Pulse on 2 Ether Vial, and there's the handshake.
What else is new?
Jeremy Dizani.
All right, we're back on our main feature.
3-0.
And we are underway here.
Oh.
You mentioned it, Cifka, you know, he can win this. Like, this is the type of game that he can win. He doesn't take that many turns. And he's got a really bang-up start here as well.
So we've got a Vault Scourge, we've got a Mox Opal, we've got a Memnite, we've got a Glimmer Void.
So at what point do you, like, what are you doing if you're in Cifka's seat here with your opponent? Like, it took him a long time to play a land, for example. And if this match is going to end, like, he can't take that long to play an island, right? It just won't end in time if that's the case. So if you're Cifka, do you politely say, can you please play faster? Do you call a judge to make sure that the game ends in a quick manner? Do you just sit there and say, look, I should have played faster earlier? What do you do, Rich?
Well, certainly Cifka should have played faster earlier.
Yeah.
On the basis that, I mean, and hey, never mind faster. How about conceding game 2?
Yes.
A lot earlier.
Yes.
Now, even if, because I can invisibly hear the chat room saying, because he thought he could win.
And he could.
And that's fine, but it's not just whether you think you can win, it's what percentage of the time you think you're going to win versus being on the play in game 3.
Sure.
Maybe you bite the bullet earlier, I don't know.
Well, for right now, Cifka's got a really nice start with Master of Ethereum. He's got a Thoughtcast now, but he also has Memnite and Vault Scourge, so a potent start for sure.
Yep, gets the cards.
And there's an Ornithopter as well. All getting pumped. Master of Ethereum's huge.
Part of the answer to your question, though, is of course that there is a judge in the feature match area, which is not always the case at yours and my FNM game, or wherever you happen to be playing Magic. the correct official answer, there's where tear, by the way, the correct answer is that at any point when you feel your opponent is playing slowly, you should A, ask them to play a bit quicker, and if you're not happy with their response, you should call a judge. Because even if your interpretation of what playing slowly means is wrong, you should still get an official version of that. You should never suffer in silence, is the correct advice. And never let someone tell you that they get as long as they want, because there's no such rule. Ravager.
Ravager now for Cifka increases the pressure that much more. Floch did have the answer, though, to the Master of Ethereum. And does Floch have colored mana coming here? That's the question.
Floch needs more answers.
Yeah, I think he has a
11.
Tech Edge in his hand, but he's going to need, like I saw he has a Lightning Helix. He can't cast that at the moment. Ooh, it is a Tectonic Edge. But I think he's got, okay, Stony Silence is decent. What's that?
Oh, no, of course
not. Yeah, no, he can't. But,
no.
I think he's also got Engineered Explosives floating around in his hand, too. And that could help out quite a bit.
If Cifka can get one more hit in before extra turns, then you would feel that time is really not the issue, because actually those 3 turns that Cifka would have should be enough to either win or not win.
This is turn 1.
Okay. Here we go.
So Cifka used his Arcbound Ravager with the Stony Silence on the stack to make it a 4/4. That way it's out of Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix range. And in they come into the red zone, and there's a second copy of Stony Silence. Just miserable draw here for Floch. He simply does not have the colors that he needs, and he passes the turn back. I thought he had an Engineered Explosives, but maybe he doesn't.
He has a path.
He's got a path. Good, that's huge. That is absolutely massive here to have that. Remember, the Stony Silence is preventing the Ravager from throwing its tokens, its counters onto another creature. So that means the Floch's only going to take 2 damage this turn, though that is a third of his remaining life total.
But
so that was turn 1, this is turn 3.
Yeah, so that's a third of his life total.
Yes.
When Cifka needs it to be half.
That's right. So we might just get a draw here, kids.
A lot of people are watching Magic about to get to a standstill. I see Frank Carsten looking at this match because he, of course, is a big Affinity player.
And
playing Affinity this
and they
weekend.
worked on this deck together, Cifka and Carsten.
Okay.
Path, block, and Ivan Floch has fully stabilized. Cifka again looks like he would be in a commanding position here potentially, but we don't really know. And I think this match is going to end in kind of a sad draw. Yeah, there was an Engineered Explosives as well, which again Floch can't really play for the 3 that he wants to play it for, but still.
Yeah, so these two heading for 5-0 and 1. 16 points, that means, and Floch says, well, here's my hand right now.
Yeah, you can't do anything about it anyway. With Stony Silence out there, I don't think there's any way that Cifka can get through that extra 2 damage that he needs to get through. And so they're going to shake hands and pick up cards, but I don't know what happened there.
Let's do the well-known, is it a draw, is it a concession between friends dance, as there we see the 2 of them.
They're answering the question
It
for
looked
us.
like that might well have been, well, you know what, given my hand, given my mana troubles, he was ahead. Let's see if that was a concession from Floch.
I would assume that Cifka was the winner if there was a concession involved with that.
Yeah, you'd have to be very bold to be Cifka and go, no, you got this in the end.
I mean, he showed him his hand. He had the tools to deal with it, but he didn't have the mana quite yet.